Hey guys, today I'm going to be showing you how to bake a cake and incorporate three types of physical and chemical change. Now, as you probably know, the three types of physical change are the change of state, shape, and dissolving substances in water. While there are five types of chemical changes, which are change of color, odor, a gas is created, precipitate, and a change in temperature or light. Let's get started with the ingredients. You're going to need 200 milliliters of milk, 2 eggs, 1 3/4 cups of brown sugar, 1 cup of chocolate chips, 3/4 a cup of cocoa, about half a cup of vegetable oil, 2 cups of flour, and 1 spoon of baking powder. Then you add the vegetable oil and 2 eggs in the bowl of solids to mix everything up. Here we have our first instance of chemical change, which is the change of color when you add all the liquids and solids together as a mixture. Now is the time to preheat your oven at a set temperature of 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Before we go any further, we have to add salt to the recipe, which brings us to our first instance of physical change in this recipe, which is the dissolving of a substance when the salt dissolves into the mixture. This brings us to our second instance of chemical change, which is the change of odor of this mixture and what it smells like after you mix it all together. Before mixing everything together, it had sort of a stale and eggy smell, but then when everything was put together, it was more of a chocolatey and gooey goodness. After you're done pouring the batter into the bowl, slowly and carefully put the bowl inside the oven for baking. On to our third and very last form of chemical change, which is the gas being created of the heat that helps baking powder produce tiny bubbles of gas, which make the cake light and fluffy during the baking process. Near the end of the process, make sure you poke the cake with a toothpick or knife to make sure that it's completely done baking. Which brings us to our second point of physical change in this recipe, which is the change of state, to make sure that the batter has turned from liquid to solid. Now, after all the baking process is done, we move on to the next morning when I try the cake for the first time. This displays our third and last form of physical change, which is the change of shape. The cake started out as one big rectangle, but now is into smaller pieces. Yum!